Welcome back to the Peach Teach English podcast. I'm Frankie Mesmer, your host, and today I'm joined by Jesus Florez, and we're going to be talking about how to create connected speech in English so that you sound more natural when speaking. So, Jesus Florez, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jesus Florez. I'm 35 years old. I'm from Colombia originally. I've now been in the United States for almost 10 years. You could say that I'm a traditional ESL teacher, but I decided to focus on the area of speech modification and accent training. I do this on the side. I have a regular office job Monday through Friday, but I would like to get into the accent training more consistently and to reach more and more people that would be interested in improving their speech, their pronunciation, acquiring a new accent.
So, Jesus, my first question for you is how long have you been learning English and how did you get started in accent coaching?
I started around 14. So that makes about 21 years. And that was because it was at that time that I started going to an independent language school in addition to my regular schooling. And so you can say that I've been doing it for more than 20 years. The interest in accent training, it was a decision that I made maybe 2 years ago. I want to get back into teaching to give others a chance to do what I achieved myself, cultivating my own American accent for more than a decade, actually 16 years now. I have some experience and expertise as well to help you get to something similar to what I achieved.
Let's go ahead and dive into what is connected speech. How would you define that?
Basically, the idea is that when we speak fluently and naturally, words are connected. They're not delivered individually. And so there is linking when we speak, and there are some patterns or phenomena that take place when linking. And that's one of the things that we'll look into the different ways in which words can connect and blend and just roll very smoothly out of your mouth.
Exactly, right? So that connected speech is how we're either connecting sounds or words together so that we can speak more quickly. And as we're going to see, we can do this by connecting sounds, adding sounds that make it flow more easily. So it'll be exciting to see all these differences. The next question is, why does it matter? Couldn't I just keep speaking English with pauses? Why should we focus on connected speech history?
Once you are aware of how speech is connected or linked, you will dramatically improve your listening comprehension. You will also make it easy for people to understand your message and not get them confused either. I've always believed, and I believe this quite strongly, that there is basically a symbiotic relationship between your clarity of speech and your listening comprehension. So you improve one, you improve the other, almost like inevitably. And so that's one of the great benefits of understanding how all of these connections are happening.
I agree completely. When we start to understand how native speakers are merging those sounds together, maybe pronouncing them differently than the way they look on the page, we are able to take our comprehension off of that page too and strengthen our ability to hear it and understand it more quickly. And as a result, we will also be able to enhance our pronunciation. Let's go ahead and start looking at the types of connected speech. So the first one that I'd like us to look at today, guys, is called linking. What is linking sounds?
As the name suggests, you are basically connecting the end of a word with the beginning of the one that comes right after. And so the most common situation is a word ending with a consonant sound and connecting it with the next word beginning with a vowel. This is actually quite common in many languages. This happens in Spanish, for instance, and in French.
As we look here, we have the linking sounds. a consonant, and then a vowel, and we can connect these sounds very easily, right? So as we can see here in the example, in slow English, we would say like, where are you? Okay, but native speakers would actually more likely say, where are you? Okay, so we're taking this where and this are, and we're connecting it. Where are you? You can explain the next one.
So this is another one of the good ones here. So we're going to be linking a final N and the word it, and then with on. Typically with the phrasal verbs, you stress or emphasize the particle. So turn it on.
Exactly right. So as we can see, guys, we have the N, a consonant, right? The I, the vowel, and then we have the T, the consonant, and then the O, the vowel. So we're actually able to connect these sounds all together. Turn it on. Why don't you walk us through the next one?
We're connecting the K sound, the it pronoun, and then the preposition up. Say it in one breath. Pick it up. Do you want me to move on to the next one, Frankie?
Yeah, go ahead.
Look at it. Look at it. So again, connect that K sound with at, and then that trick that we do in American English with the T sound in between two vowel sounds, and you get, look at it.
I'd like to say you could also say it even faster. Look at it. Look at
Yeah,
it.
exactly. You can. Yeah, true.
All right. And the last one there, Jesus.
Put it on. Same thing. Stress that final on. Put it on. I would say emphasize that word on, make it higher in pitch. Put it on.
Guys, that's the first one. It's called linking. And one of the most common times is when we're connecting consonant and vowels, like we see in these examples. Now we're going to move on to intrusion. So, Jesus, what is intrusion?
Here, typically, we have a situation where we're ending in vowel sounds with another word that begins with a vowel sound. We are inserting a sound that is not in the spelling, but it is in the pronunciation. We are either pronouncing a very subtle y or w sound, basically a y sound and a w sound. So we have examples such as these ones. I am. I'm exaggerating so that you hear it. But in natural speech, this is very subtle. It's quite fast. So we're inserting a sound that's not in the spelling, but we are pronouncing it.
It's important to see that the reason we do this is because it makes it easier to connect those vowel sounds by adding in that y. Otherwise, you do need that pause. So this allows us to say it more quickly. I am. We're on number 2. See it, see it. Okay. The last one. So instead of saying may I, we can connect it. May I. Then, as was mentioned, we also have the intrusive W. Okay. So between vowels, we can add this kind of W sound, as we can see here. So instead of saying go on, we can connect it, go on. Do it, do it. You know it, you know it. Okay, so you can see us adding in this W sound here. That is what we're going to call intrusion. This is when we're adding that sound to connect vowel sounds. So now we're going to move on to the next one, which is elision.
Means deletion or something that disappears, if you want to think of it that way. So when sounds elide, they disappear. Basically, you can think of it as she has written it down here. Some sounds are dropped in order to facilitate the progression of all of these sounds. This happens a lot when you're dealing with consonant sounds, or sometimes you have, I like to call these squeezed out syllables, like these ones here, classic examples of family, chocolate, business, vegetable, or comfortable.
Yeah, and there can be a long list of these, right? Where we're just not pronouncing some of the sounds in the words. Do you know any tricks to identify these?
A lot of these words to be fair, can sometimes be said with that additional syllable, but it just really is not the norm. Basically, something like this really comes down to paying close attention when you listen to spoken English and just basically copy or mimic what native speakers are doing. 98% of Americans that I've listened to or heard in my lifetime say family. Occasionally, you will hear someone out there, but they're outliers, say family. I don't think there's a trick though. Just based on the spelling alone, I don't think there is.
I agree, there's not like these obvious rules to guide us. You probably will find some patterns with li words or these like able words, but I don't think it's like a strong enough rule to go by. So I think your advice is really important, especially with English. It's important to listen and try to mimic that sound because the language, at least in the way it's spelled, is not as phonetic as, say, like Spanish, for example. And if you're trying to pronounce every syllable that you see, you perhaps are going to pronounce it incorrectly or in a way that doesn't sound very natural. Like you said, family. Really, it's more common for us to say family. So let's go ahead and practice some of these common ones. Chocolate.
The stress is right there at the beginning. Business. A lot of those words with the NES suffix, the stress goes or comes before. All right. Oh, vegetable. One strategy for learners in general is that you can use another word like veggie, a lot easier to say if you don't feel terribly confident in saying vegetable. How about comfortable? Let's break it down. So you see, the way that this one works is that you stress the beginning and then you lower your pitch with each syllable. Then of refining that second syllable, that's where a lot of people have trouble. Comfortable. Now, again, to be fair, you can say comfortable, although that's a kind of a rare pronunciation, but I have heard it. If you think of it as just a communication strategy, you can say comfortable or comfy. That works just as,
Comfy. Uh-huh.
yeah, you can say that. It works just as well. All right, great.
Exactly. You're right, Jesus. We can replace vegetable with veggie, comfortable with comfy, if you are trying to avoid saying these more complicated words in terms of pronunciation. Now we're going to talk about the elision of T and D. So both of these sounds, when they are between consonants, the sound kind of disappears, and this allows us to speak faster and more smoothly. This is particularly common in American English. Jesus, I'll let you take the next elision.
This one, you might have seen it explained with a different name, but those first two words, you have this T plus N coming together. And yes, I think you could say that the T sound is effectively dropped. So they have mountain. So it's more of the N becoming its own mountain button. And then weekend trip, that's more straightforward. You get rid of the D. That simplification makes it easier to say.
Okay, so that's basically it, guys. You can see here how we're removing some sounds. Okay, with the T's and D's, we do this with a lot of words. So just paying close attention to how native speakers talk and repeating after them is a great way to improve in this area. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is assimilation. So, Jesus, what is assimilation?
Think of it this way, sounds combining into something different. Two sounds becoming a third, like the following ones, especially these first two.
If we said the words individually without connected speech, we would say, don't you. But in faster speech, we're going to connect these sounds. This is common with T's and Y's in English. So, for example, there's a famous song, Don't You Wish Your Girlfriend Was Hot Like Me? Okay, that maybe you guys remember this song. This is the perfect song to practice this connected speech, don't ya? I'll let you take over, did ya?
All right, so you have a D sound plus a Y sound, you get a J sound. J. So did you becomes did you? Did you go, for instance? S becoming an SH when you have it with the Y. That one, it is pretty common, I'd say, especially I miss you.
When I was doing some more research on this topic, it's not something I had really thought about much, but when I was looking at examples, when there is that S coming together, it will create that sh sound sometimes, which is interesting. But it's very subtle. And I don't think people always do it, but some people do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my observation too. It's very inconsistent. Like, I don't use that one myself. Sometimes I guess I will. Although I think I'm probably more likely to do another blend, like in the word usual. Finally, the example of have to. I think that pretty much is a standalone situation. I'm sure that there are other similar instances when this happens.
We have one more we're going to look at, which is called flapping. Okay. So, Jesus, what is flapping?
Flapping is one way to refer to what happens in North American English when you have a T letter in between vowel sounds in an unstressed syllable. It's an important detail to keep in mind. And basically, it's a very quick tip of your tongue behind the front teeth. And so we have the examples of butter, water, ladder, and city. We're not pronouncing a true T. And again, it always happens when you have an unstressed syllable.
We looked at 5 different types of connected speech. You can check out this link if you want to review these. Also, in the future, I plan on making other blogs that go deeper into each one. So, yeah, we'll keep diving deeper into this topic together. Okay, but let's talk about it. And Jesus is the accent coach here. So, before we look at some of the tips I included here in the blog, I'd like to just know what Jesus wants to share with us. So, what are your best tips for practicing connected speech?
I would say that knowing the rules helps a great deal. These are very predictable patterns, consistent patterns. They really hold up a lot of the time. So trying to become familiarized with the terminology and the theory has a lot of value. After that, I would also say that do some very targeted listening practice so that you can confirm these things. I know that's actually part of the process that I went through, meaning that every single thing that I've learned, I've heard it confirmed either by a native speaker or a very competent teacher. After that, just follow more of the conventional advice, which is a lot of what Frankie is listing. Shadow if you know how to do it. I did have a lot of opportunities to practice this with native speakers in face-to-face conversations.
What you're saying here is really good, right? So, if you're able to have conversations with native speakers and you're actively paying attention to how they're connecting speech, but you need to actively listen for it and try to do the same. This is going to help your speech sound less broken and more natural. And I like to do this when I study other languages too. There's a reason the native speakers do this, right? And so it's helpful for us to learn to do it as well. You could also do that through like maybe you don't live in an English speaking country, so you could use like music, series, videos, try to pay attention to how they're connecting that speech. And as we were saying, you could even add in that shadowing exercise to get that intensive practice to try to add this connected speech into your pronunciation. I would say those are the top tips. If you really want to master it, I would say get an accent coach, hire a tutor that's really going to help you focus on these skills and you can improve in these areas?
I recommend more of a pronunciation training in general. I believe that there is, and it makes sense, to have at least a notion of all the different sounds that make up the sound system of English. And by that, I mean that you should be able to isolate every single one of the sounds and produce them in isolation too. I believe that there's also a very strong connection between reproducing a sound first being able to identify it. If you can't hear the difference, you will not be able to pronounce these sounds correctly. And so there's a lot of that awareness that comes into play as well. So that again, like I said, that's broad. I think has a role to play there too.
If you're not hearing the sound, how are you going to produce it correctly? That makes a lot of sense. If you want to improve your pronunciation, do a lot of listening. And guys, I often recommend Youglish. Listen to many people, try to shadow them or repeat after them as well. I did create this little practice shadowing with teacher Frankie activity. The idea is try to shadow, and you probably will need to pause so that you can repeat after the person and then continue, because you're not going to remember this whole paragraph, right? So listen to a phrase, try to repeat the phrase, and really focus on that connected speech, okay? Before we finish, Jesus, do you have any final tips for our students today?
Go back and listen to the recording of this podcast and practice this paragraph on your own a few more times. There's some good things there. So definitely take it line by line. If you're able and you can record it, have an audio clip of it, and listen back, listen to it. You can always do some self monitoring, integrate it into your English practice routine.
Yes, excellent advice. We're going to wrap up here. So, Jesus, why don't you go ahead and tell them how they can find you on social media and contact you?
So right now you can find me on YouTube, Instagram. You're going to find me under the name American Accent Playbook. If you look me up on LinkedIn, I show up as Jesus Florez-an ESL.
So, yeah, the American Accent Playbook. If you want to get in touch with Jesus Florez. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. See you guys at the next event.